Welcome, everyone, to another amazing episode of the 100% podcast, where we teach you through story that you might be 100% effed up, but simultaneously, you are still 100% lovable, and that nothing that you've done or that has been done to you can diminish how lovable and deserving of true and only good love you are. On our stage tonight, we have the most amazing guest who I'm so pumped about. Her name is Jori O'Neale. Jori O'Neale is a fantastic author. Can you actually introduce yourself, Jori? Okay.
Sure. Um,
I want to hear everything that's amazing about you.
I'm a 10-time published, two-time best-selling author, a TEDx speaker, the co-owner of a publishing company, the one and only publishing company. It's not the one and only, of course, but that's the name of it. It's quite fun. Previous to that, 3 years ghostwriter and book writing coach, women's empowerment coach, Christian productivity coach. I have a lot of coach things under my belt. 22 years in education. And as of January 31st, I'm a full-time entrepreneur. So I have taken all the skills, all the things, and have 100% bet on myself. And it has been scary and fun and eye-opening and enlightening, but it has led me to meet Haya. So I wouldn't have traded anything for the world to have had and lived this experience thus far. I am also the proud mom of 4 children, the wife to an amazing, gentle, and patient husband. You'll learn from my stories and antics during this podcast episode that I can be very energetic, very high energy. Right now, I am very calm, very collected, feeling very excited to be spending time and sharing space with my friend Haya. So, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here, Jory. You guys heard it. She is a phenomenal, gifted writer and author, as well as a beautiful soul who has stories for you to learn about things that Jory has gone through. So, Jory, let's start. What is one thing that you feel you saw when you were growing up that you wish you didn't see?
Oh, sure. I witnessed oh, wow, where do we start? So let's backstory. I am from the inner city of Chicago, the bad part. Let's just put that there. Um, I think every town has a part where it's a little more dangerous than others, and I ironically just so happened to be born and raised there and stayed there for the first 9 years of my life. During that process, I personally have been the victim of sexual assault. I was shot at. So the worst thing that I think I've seen is probably someone get beat near death. Um, and those images, they don't leave your head, right? They kind of ingrain themselves there. So from I think before 10, I experienced a lot of trauma. Car crashes that almost took my life, collapsed jungle gyms. I mean, the trauma before 10, one should never experience in a lifetime, let alone before the age of 10. But God is good, and I'm still here to share my story and to, I guess, I think my desire to, and is being here right now, honestly, is to give hope to people that regardless of what you've experienced, there is hope on the other side of that. There's healing. There's the ability to take those stories, to take those experiences, and to use them to empower and encourage other people.
Yeah, amazing. And so, as most of our listeners are women who are either in unhealthy relationships or might get into another relationship, what do you think are some of the childhood situations that you saw that your mom got herself into in regards to allowing physical abuse or allowing abuse in her home? Like, what do you think is the dynamics with the parental relationship that you witnessed?
Maybe growing up, I wouldn't say it started with my parents. I would say it started with my grandparents. My grandmother was in an abusive relationship. My grandfather beat her near death multiple times. He abused alcohol. And when she divorced him, she remarried to the only grandfather I honestly knew because I wasn't allowed to engage with my biological grandfather. And so I think the guardedness that she had was trickled down and passed down to each of her children. And so what I witnessed growing up was a lack of trust with men. So most of my aunts had, children out of wedlock. Only one actually got married, and they had multiple children out of wedlock. So each of my cousins is fathered by a different guy. So the idea that maybe I trust the man enough to be intimate, but I don't trust him enough to be consistent, to be surrendered, to be um, just committed. I think that that did pass down to me. And so initially in my own relationships growing up, I would put myself in positions where being taken advantage of or, being emotionally abused was almost like normal, right? So it got normalized. And so seeing my mom in relationships, it was something that she didn't actually allow. Like she kept that part of herself separate. I think maybe even compartmentalized because she was unhappy and unsatisfied with her relationships. She had my brother when she was 15. She had me at 20. She had my sister at 28. And even my stepdad, who she ended up marrying, he cheated on her. And so I have a younger sister who is 4 months older than the sister that my mom birthed, right? So, this infidelity, this promiscuity, just lack of commitment and love, was something that, again, she didn't just see it, but she embodied it. And that's how she lived. And so, yeah, they argued a lot, and ironically, my stepdad had problems with alcohol. And so it was almost like she was mirroring what she saw growing up, and thinking that, "Oh, it's not gonna happen to me," or, "It'll be different with me." I've only witnessed, my parents' physical abuse with one another once, when I was young, but the emotional abuse was daily. It was weekly, the silent treatment, the lack of care, like, their anniversary is 5 days before my husband and I, and I can't honestly can't remember the last time they celebrated it. Like, they've been together 36 years, and currently the last 5 of those, they've lived separate. So they're not legally separated, but they haven't been in the same room, the same house, the same bed in quite some time. And that was it seemed as though my mom got to this space where she was fed up and she was tired of not being loved, and so she left. And, you hear oftentimes, like, maybe the man leaving because of this, that, the other. In my mind, like, every man in my mom's life had left. They had, And so for her to get to the space where she left, I was just like, "All right, I don't know what was happening behind closed doors, but that it must have been a lot. Like, it must have taken its toll on her to the point where she was like, I have to go save myself. I can't, like, stay in the loveless relationship." And so, for a long time, I was like, "I'm never gonna get married because if that's what marriage looks like, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want any parts of it." But that's why I say, like, God is good. Like, He heals things even before we know that they're broken, right? Like, you would have had to tell me that the way that they interacted with each other wasn't normal because I had tons of friends whose parents reacted and lived the exact same way. And so once this becomes a normalized situation, you don't know any different, right? You don't know what you don't know. And so I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to befriend people whose parents had a loving relationship where there was communication. I think for the most part, I idealized what a relationship should look like from shows that I'd see on TV, because I wasn't able to interact and engage with them, like, in my immediate sphere, uh, so, yeah.
Can you talk about some of the stories of where you would place yourself in situations that emotional abuse was almost normal? Can you go into some description of what that emotional abuse looked like for you with like behaviors of what the men were treating you, how they were treating you, or what they were saying to you?
I don't know if they'll be particularly relevant to both your audience because I started quote unquote dating boys when I was quite young. We're talking about like 8 years old, 9 years old. And these were like, oh, I have a boyfriend, and we would, kiss and do things. But because I didn't see trust in any relationship in like, again, my immediate sphere, I never, like, when I got married, I was a virgin not because I was holy or, I wanted to set myself apart, but because I was like, I don't trust no one. I trust no one, absolutely no one. And that was from what I saw growing up. So when I say putting myself in positions where I would be harmed or hurt, I mean like going to parties knowing full well like there's drug and alcohol and getting in some sort of like heated romantic roused space or phase with some random guy I just met, don't know this guy from a hole in the wall. And the results could have been rape. It could have been a lot of things. But I was protected. And so those things never happened. But again, I'm at a party. I'm 12. Everyone else here is a teenager in their early 20s, and I'm kissing and touching and doing all these things with some guy I literally just met. And so just that type of callousness and just not caring. Like I didn't care enough about myself. I didn't love myself enough to make good choices sexually or relationally. And I, like I said, I have lived a very fortunate life. I've seen a lot. I've done a lot. Some really smart, some not so smart. Um, and at the end of the day, I feel absolutely blessed and loved. And it's not because of anything that I've done, but it was literally the protection. Like I felt protected. When I look back on all the decisions and choices that I've made relationally, I feel blessed. And like I said, I don't know if this is gonna be the thing that's gonna help your listeners like find themselves in my story, but I pray that it allows them to at least see that there is hope at the end of this, that regardless of what instances of any sort of grief or hurt or harm have befallen them, that there is a space on the other side where they can be hopeful, they can feel whole, they can feel loved. And it starts with first loving yourself. And so, for about 3 years, I decided I wasn't going to engage myself with any guy in any way, shape, or form. And during those 3 years, I just went on this journey of like self love. What does it look like to put Jori first? What does it look like to make Jori feel beautiful? Like, like without some guy, whistling at me or or telling me anything like, how do I go out into the world feeling enough? And so that was a 3-year journey of just me turning inward and no longer looking for outward validation and approval from men or from anyone else, any of my accolades, any of the things that I was doing or trying to accomplish. It was really like, okay, who am I and what does it look like for me to feel love? And that journey led to me eventually finding my husband. I would say finding, but like he was always there, but I never noticed him. Right. For a lot of us, we don't notice the good guys. We notice all the knuckleheads, all the riffraffs, all the guys who we know full well are going to treat us not the way that we deserve. And so my husband was there this whole time, consistent, solid, loving, supportive, and I totally just overlooked him for so long until I was like, okay, well, this is what I like. This is what makes me feel like me. This is what it means for me to feel loved. And so this is what I deserve from someone else who I want to bring into my life to love me also. And all the things that I had discovered my husband was doing. And I was like, oh, hey, you were there the whole time? It's like, okay, well, let's give this a try. And so for 3 years, we dated. So again, it's 3 years of nothingness and then 3 years of dating my husband, or, boyfriend at the time. And I was just like, all right, you're consistent. I feel like I might be able to trust you. Like, and so all those things that had been so difficult for me, I think one of the first things I ever told my husband, we were dating, I was like, I trust you. And he's like, okay. It's like, all right, that's nice. I'm like, no, like, that's a big deal. Like, that's a really big deal. And we've been together 14 years and he's just been the most consistent, gracious dude that I've ever met. So, yeah, like I said, I feel blessed. I feel blessed. That's it. I feel like I am living proof that one, there are still good guys out there. Two, that if you work on loving you first, that God will lead them to you or you to them. And if nothing else, at least you'll get to that wholeness and that space of healing. I think that's the most important part, regardless if you find a mate or not, like just that space of just feeling enough. And I know for me that like that can still be a struggle. Motherhood and aging and weight gain and going into perimenopause and all these things. I'm like, okay, I'm still lovable. We're still solid. Like, it's okay. Gray hairs and the fupa. We're still good. We're still good. And so, yeah, that's been my journey in terms of my relationships, what I allowed and what I currently now know I deserve.
I love that. I love that you were able to first transform your life because you took a gap of not dating to find yourself. I think that's a really important message for everyone listening, that her phenomenal husband came because she learned how to be phenomenal with herself. There was a gap, a space of time where it wasn't filled with men or physical attention or superficial attention or how do I distract myself with the next guy? Or how do I earn love from him to make myself feel like I'm lovable? And that was a really big thing that I had to go through also, where I took some time. Mine was actually also 3 years. That's funny. Where I stopped dating and I thought I was going to meet my husband right away. But of course, it took 3 years. And all of that time, I was like, Kyle, what do you need? How can I love you? What are your feelings? How do I protect you? And so your story of like, yes, I allowed a lot of emotional abuse. Allowed a lot of sexual abuse. I didn't have boundaries. I didn't know how to trust myself. So I let in a lot of men who I couldn't trust either. And my mom was physically abused, and her mom was physically abused, and I had an opportunity to break the cycle because I chose to heal by coming back to myself instead of being in a relationship where I thought I could maybe fix it all over again there.
Spot on. I mean, you said a lot shorter than I did. I love it. That's great. It's a great summation.
So, what do you think have been like the main lessons that you learned during those 3 years? Because it's a huge process to develop boundaries and self awareness. It does not take 1 second. And it takes these little epiphanies of like, oh shit, I allowed so much because I didn't know me. So, what was your process of getting to know yourself so that you were able to stop abuse, not because you stopped it, but because you stopped attracting it?
One of the ways that I used to escape when I was younger was through reading, and I think that kind of like full circle moment of like being a 10-time published author is like, yeah, you like reading, so it makes sense that you like writing as well. But one of the ways that I kind of initiated this journey of like self-discovery and self-actualization was by no longer reading as much of other people's writing, but beginning to write my own story, beginning to write down the things that I had experienced, how I felt about the things that I experienced. So during that 5-year period, I also started therapy. So when I was 25, s- in grad school, still trying to figure it out, I took on 4 jobs just so I could pay for rent in New York, for grad school because I was paying out of pocket, and to pay for therapy, because it was important. I said, I don't know what I don't know. And so the journaling helped to kind of like unlock some things, but I still needed to process stuff. And I hadn't seen that growing up. I didn't have anyone to go talk to in my family to say, hey, I'm feeling a little depressed. How do you like know they're depressed? They drink, they smoke, they go have sex with some guy, right? Like they take drugs. They don't deal with it. They don't process it. So I was like, okay, if I don't want to repeat the same habits, I need to do something different. So journaling had been with me probably since young, but I no longer looked outward to figure out like how to feel in the moment. And I was like, okay, no, I actually have the power to choose how I feel about these things. So once I would write them down, I'm like, oh snap, I don't like the way I'm feeling when I'm thinking about this incident or when I'm thinking about this episode. Okay, what do I want to do with this? Well, one, I'm gonna give it to God. And so I got deeper in my prayer life. So therapy, journaling, and prayer, those three. I think also just finding good girlfriends, like friends who are going to allow you to just cry. Like sometimes I'm just and for me that was like, you don't cry. Crying is weak. Crying is a show that you've no idea how to control your emotions or your life or yourself. And I got to a point where it was just like, I'm not well. I know I'm not well, and I feel a lot of things, and I've suppressed a lot of things. And so, if the body, right, keeps score, and there's a book called The Body Keeps Score, right? And so, there are things that I've been holding on to that until I release, they're not going anywhere. They're going to stay with me. And so, I got friends who I would say, hey, can I come by? I would go by, I would lay in their bed, and I would just start crying. There are no words. I'm not talking to them about what's happening or what's going on or what feelings are being brought up. At the end of it, do you want to talk about it? That's the question. Do you want to talk about it? Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. And that was okay. Like I didn't feel pushed or pressured or prompted or prodded to tell them something or to make something up. Like they didn't ask like what's wrong, which I appreciated. They were just like, "Are you okay?" And I'd be like, "I think I'll be okay." I I'm I'm working on getting well, right? And so, but then again, like no one told me something's wrong. It was just like I don't foresee myself trusting an individual enough to be vulnerable. I don't believe I can let anyone in. Like I really don't. And the idea and the thought of it, it scared me so much. Eh, to the point where, like, even on my wedding night, and I've shared this with my husband, like, we couldn't be intimate. Like, it took maybe, like, 2 weeks after we got married until I was able to, like, relax to be intimate with this is my husband, right? Like, we weren't intimate during the entire 3 years of dating, and he's like, "I'm your husband. I put a ring on it. Like, what's good?" But again, like, he was so patient with me. I was just like, I can't. I don't know how. And I'm legit like, I don't know how. Like, this is all new. I've spent my entire life, and I got married at 28. I'm like, I spent my entire life shutting this part of myself down, believing that it's not worth sharing or accessing. And here's a man who's like, I'll wait. And I was just like, what? Oh, where do you come from? Like, do they make more of you? And so it took time. It took time, and it wasn't until I was fully comfortable with being me with him, so crying in front of him, just losing it and not feeling judged, not feeling like he was gonna abandon me, and that's been the thing that I think has always been there just because of seeing, like, my mother's relationships, like, this abandonment, and so that was something that, like, I'm gonna say probably about 8, maybe 13 months into our marriage, we started going to therapy because in the back of my mind, he was going to leave. I was gonna do something, and he was just gonna leave, and so even with that, like, I'm still withholding. Uh, and so after we had our first kid, I was like, we can't raise him the way that I was raised. And his whole family dynamic, if you listen, you want to have him on your podcast, that would be something. But I was like, we can't repeat our parents' mistakes. We can't. And so if we know better, then I think we can do better. And so I think we went to therapy for maybe like a year. He had some stuff he had to work on. So he went to therapy. And I was like, dude, I spent 5 years in therapy before we we married. I'm tapped out. Like, we could do the joint therapy thing. I was like, but like the solo therapy, I'm okay. I'm good. I got my journals. We're fine. So we went to couples therapy and then he saw a therapist on his own. And so we did that for about a year. And then by my son's, I think like 1 year birthday or like he was 13 months or something like that. We had stopped seeing the therapist and we started actually like applying the things that we learned. We got with other couples whose marriages were healthy and we wanted to imitate. And so I think in the interim of finding oneself, journaling, prayer, therapy, but after you found someone that you're open or willing to share your life with, I think getting a outside set of eyes in there. It could be a friend, it could be a therapist, whatever, but somebody not you all to check in and say, "Hey, something's up," because when you're in the bottle, like, you can see the label, you can't see it. And so I'm like, all right, if we are so far deep into this relationship that we can't see the things that we're doing, I guarantee you when we bring a kid into the mix, the kid's gonna see it. And the kid's going to start either imitating it or like thinking that this is normal. And I'm like, all right, so I can't control what my kid thinks, but I can control what we're doing and how we're receiving one another. And so there were certain things that we had put into practice that we still practice even now. And one of them is that we will never leave each other. Like same room, same house. He goes to work, I come home, whatever. We always greet each other with a kiss and a hug, period. When we wake up in the morning, we greet each other with a kiss and a hug. So the first time that we encounter each other, where it's the beginning of the day, the end of the day, when he comes home from work, we always greet each other with a kiss and a hug. And initially the kids were like, oh, that's so nasty. And now it's normalized. They're like, oh, when you love someone, when you're married, you show affection. This is a appropriate display of affection. Right? So just normalizing the things that like we never saw that. I never saw like my parents kiss and hug. Like maybe when my dad was drunk or like it was like New Year's and like the 3, 2, 1, and then everybody kisses. Like outside of that, I don't remember them showing or displaying any sort of affection. And so just remembering the lack of love that I saw in my household growing up and trying to not do the opposite for the sake of being better, but like what does healthy look like? It looks like sharing space. It looks like sharing time. It looks like intentionally being with each other. Like my kids know, like Thursday night's date night. Don't ask mommy and daddy to take you anywhere on Thursday night because mommy and daddy are hanging out with each other. Why? Because I actually still like him and I want to continue to like him. And he's changing every day. I'm changing every day. Like we got married. He was 30. I was 28. This is 14 years later. Like he's about to turn 45. Like he's changed a lot. So I've changed a little bit. I'm a little bit changed. He changed more than me. But making sure, like, do I still know you? Because if I don't know you, I can't love you. Like, I don't, like, sentimentally, yes. But, like, if I don't know you, I can't love you. And I think that was what those 3 years of me being uh, isolated or by myself, I couldn't love me because I didn't know me. And so the same is true with anyone else that God brings into my life. Like, unless I get
Yeah.
to the space of learning to know you, I can't honestly love you. And so my kids, like, we make sure that we have family time so we get to know the kids. I like have these seasons where like one kid will join a sport because it's 4 kids, it's way too much money. So one kid will join a sport for a season, and then I just stay with that kid because I want to get to know my kid. And so it's 4 seasons, it's 4 kids, and so each kid gets a season where mommy's gonna drive you to this place, and I'm gonna stay there, and I'm gonna watch you, and we're just gonna spend time together, and that's this is your dedicated time. This is your time, right? So daddy gets dedicated time on Thursdays, and the children get dedicated times during the week and during seasons of the year. But I'm I'm blessed. That's it. Hi, I'm blessed, baby. I'm blessed.
You are blessed, Jory. I loved what you said that it took you more than 4 years to finally feel like your husband won't leave you because you were dating for 3 years, and it was only after 1 full year of marriage, so more than 4 years of being with a consistent, kind, gentle, non-pressurizing man, did you think that "Okay, so I can calm down enough now that he might not abandon me."
Yeah, took a while.
And I had that my first 5 years of marriage, so I didn't date my husband long. We met, got married right away. We dated like 2 weeks, got married 3 months later. So, um, which I don't recommend to other people, but I happen to have been a relationship expert, so I knew what I was looking for. All right. Um, and after 5 years of marriage did I start to calm down because I always thought, "One more fucking fight." Sorry, it's my own podcast, I guess I can curse. I was like, "One more fight, he's gonna leave me. One more postpartum meltdown, he's gonna go." Like, I was so traumatized from my parents' divorce and then the death of my best friend and the death of my this and the death of that, and right? I was just like, shit, and every boyfriend before him, and I dated a lot of men, left me, right? Essentially, even if I broke up because they left me, with drugs, with
Mm,
alcohol, never cheating because that wasn't my story in life. But if a man leaves you to do drugs, it's cheating in a whole different form, meaning they don't show up for you. So, 5 years into my marriage, I was like, wait, I think we're okay. And it had nothing to do with Adam. He was always good. He was always consistent. He was always calm. It was only me. And now I'm at 8 years married now into my ninth year, almost in my ninth. I'm in my eighth year. And after 8 years, I finally believe, Jory, check this out, that he loves me. I thought because of so much trauma that he is just a really nice guy and he just loves everyone. Like he just loves up on everyone. Like Adam, I don't know if you know him, but he's like good, sweet. He's a lover, man. So I was just like, I'm just blessed that I married someone who is a lover. I don't think he loves me.
mm,
And literally a few months ago, because I was doing my own healing work as part of building my company, helping other women heal, that I broke that false belief and I was like, wait, I don't think he just is a lover. I think he actually loves
yep,
me. And once I broke that belief, did our marriage get like, just like so much? I was able to show up more for him,
mm,
much more
yep,
patience. I used to get annoyed at like little things all the time because I didn't have that true intimacy, like emotional intimacy. And so for all of you guys listening, that was Jory's story was 3 years of doing healing work, and then after 4 years in a healthy marriage, she finally calmed down enough to trust. Mine was similar, 3 years of a healing journey and then 5 years of marriage. So it's like, if you guys and these are with great men, these are with phenomenal men. If you guys are in a relationship with a half-ass man who's either drinking or smoking pot or watching porn or not fully emotionally available for you, get out now
mm,
because the amount of time you're going to take to truly relax and clean your system of all of the trauma so that you can have true epic love, which is what I teach people how to get to, it's just going to take some time. And so if you're wasting all your time now trying to make a relationship work when it's not really working, you're wasting your life because you truly need your own space first to attract someone who's going to then give you healthy space.
So I'll go back for a second because the first year was rocky because my husband did have a porn addiction and it was something that he brought into the marriage, right? And so I had did all this healing work and I'm like, I'm whole, I'm feeling great, feeling good. And I'm like, you jacked up, brother. Like, what? Why you ain't say nothing? Like, if you said something, I would have. And so my background is in theology and government and politics. So I was like, I, I know what an annulment is, and I don't have no issue. I have no problem. And I told him, I said, listen, when we have a child, I want you to be very clear. I will be very clear. Just because we've procreated doesn't mean that I'm dedicated to you. I don't have to stay here. I said, I don't. I was like, maybe you think that. I don't think that. And I don't move like that. I said, so until you are a full, whole human who's able to be emotionally here, we can't rock this out. So that year of therapy after my son came into the picture was because he was like, she may leave me. Now, I had abandonment issues this entire time. I'm like, he's going to leave me. He's going to leave me. And then I was like, no, no, I'm going to leave because I can't live like I'm not doing this. I did a lot of work for me to feel like I deserve a certain level of love. Nah, you either going to show up or somebody got to go. You could go, I could go, somebody got to go. We can't stay here. So I don't want to be like, oh, everything was cool. And I think if most people are honest, there is something that we all run to feel whole. And now I run to God, right? And so now my husband also runs to God. Prior, he ran to porn. And prior, I ran to whatever accolade I wanted to achieve, going on a stage, doing stand-up comedy or like all these achievements were my idolatrous, like they had become my God, right? And so taking that time to like flush out my system with all those things and just be okay with me, be content with me. Like he needed to do that. And I was like, I'm not going to be part of whatever you had going on prior because you didn't come into this marriage as a whole human. And so he did the work. He spent the year in therapy. We did the group therapy. He did his individual therapy. And that individual therapy was to help him identify, why do I do this? What causes these things? What am I missing in me that's making me feel not enough that I need to go here to, get my fix or whatever. And so he did that. Then he joined a group, men's group of some sort to, deal with sexual addiction and things of that nature. And he was in there for a couple years. So it was work. Now, I'm not saying this because my husband ain't great. He's still great, still patient, still loving. But he had his own demons and hey, nothing to do with me. And so I do want to share that, yes, it's going to take work for two humans who are not whole to be together, but you both have to be committed to doing the work. And so any woman who is listening, you need to do the work on you first. Like I there was no way I was be like, "Oh, I'm gonna fix him." Nah, that don't work. Stop it. Stop playing yourself. Stop it right now. Because all it did was frustrate me. So I'm like, and then it became this thing like, "Oh, I'm not good enough. Why is he going to porn? Am I not pretty enough? Am I not beautiful enough? Maybe I should starve myself. Maybe I should go to the gym. Maybe like." And that's not. I was like, I just spent 3 years feeling like I'm okay being me, and now this dude would come and making me feel all, I was like, nah, 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 we not doing this. This is what we not gonna do. This is what we not gonna do. So yes, if a man is not able to be there for you physically, emotionally, just as a whole person because he's addicted or attracted to these outside forces or elements or things or vices, it is not going to work. I agree with you 1,000,000,000% on that. However, if you're both willing to do the work separately, individually, I am living proof that it can work. Because here we are, 13 years later, 1,000,000,000% committed to each other. But we both had to separately do the work. Now, I came into the marriage having done the work. He needed to do the work inside of the marriage. And I think I don't know. And I honestly don't want to think about what would happen if shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he saw he had a problem. He was willing to do the work to resolve his problem. And he's still doing the work right? Because some of these things, like, they don't go away. Like some of these vices, like they're always whispering in the back of your head. Like I've uncles and even my brother, like the idea of stepping outside of their marriages because that's how they were wired, literally growing up, seeing that promiscuity, infidelity, like this is normal. There's always something in the back of their head, this voice that's whispering, just step out, just say hi to that girl, just get her number. Like, and my brother tells me, he tells me, like, we have a podcast called the Godly Man's Perspective on Marriage podcast. And I interview him and other godly men because I'm like, what makes you still say I do even when you don't? Why did I start a podcast with a whole bunch of dudes? Because I was like, I want to make sure that other women understand why men do what they do. I didn't understand it. My husband went to therapy. He was still trying to explain it to me. He couldn't understand it too good. So I'm like, all right, let me just interview other men to figure out what is keeping you committed to this woman. What is keeping you here in this marriage? And you know what? The majority of the people who listen to that podcast are individuals who are engaged, both men and women. Our highest demographic is single women and engaged men. Why? Because they're like, what is going to make us say I do when we don't feel like it? When we feel like she's making more than me and I'm insecure, when we feel like, oh my gosh, there's so many men who are attracted to her. Why in the world would she stay with me? Like they deal and struggle with these insecurities also. Like it's not just us. And so I think if you're with a man who's willing to put in the work, who's willing to do what he needs to do to become a whole human for himself first, then with you, I think you have a chance. But if you're trying to fix your man, please stop. Work, you can't fix nobody. You can't. You can't.
Yeah.
So don't start. You an uphill battle and you won't win.
I mean, I love that. And as we slowly start wrapping this up, I think it's important for the women to know statistically that's very, very low. where the man on his own initiative, not with your pressure, not with your like, baby, I'm going to leave you if you don't, on his own chooses treatment and stays with treatment. It is extremely rare. So Jory is a beautiful story of how he did his own work in her marriage consistently on his own and still does it without her being on his ass all the time. Most of the time, the women die a slow death, losing sleep, losing peace of mind, not eating properly because they're always wondering when he's going to stop the porn, when he's going to stop the pot, when he's going to stop the painkillers, when he's going to stop drinking. If he would only just stop drinking, we would be fine. And they lose themselves in the addiction. And so then they become just as sick. And so it's really important to hear this, but to also know most of the time, men on their own volition will not seek treatment and do it consistently. And so what the ideal is, which is what I teach people not how to get out of the mess, is do the work beforehand and make sure when you choose someone, you ask them about their addictions. You just say straight up, do you watch porn? Do you smoke pot? Do you drink? What do you do to relax? What do you do to get out of your like negative headspace? And just listen. Because if you tell them, I don't want a man who watches porn, they'll be like, yeah, I never watch it. I don't want a man who smokes. No, no, I never smoke. You don't want to tell them what you want. You just want to
Mhm.
listen. Just ask them a gentle question. They don't have to be your man. You don't have to make this work. Just listen. Just ask them, what do you do? Do you do that? Without any intonation of force or pressure, or if you do this, I'm going to not be with you. And see if you can objectively identify this man's character before you invest your emotions into it so that you don't get into a mess and, God forbid, bring children into a place that they never deserve to be in.
Facts. Facts.
Jory, this has been an amazing session on the 100% podcast where everyone has gone through something. Don't look for somebody who's not effed up. This podcast is that everyone's effed up. Whether it's Jory who came from one neighborhood or me who came from a vastly different neighborhood, we had similar traumas. Don't think that if you're black or white or this religion or this race or that culture, you're different. At the end of the day, no matter what your trauma is, you are 100% effed up. No one is perfect and without it. But simultaneously, you are still 100% lovable. Not 1 ounce of you ever got diminished in how lovable you are based on what you have gone through. Because women and men only do these things because they don't believe that they're lovable. And we attract abuse and allow abuse based on how unlovable we truly believe we are. And so if you believe you're 100% lovable, no matter what has happened to you or what you've done, you will truly never allow abuse in your life. So the way to avoid it is to believe that you are still deserving of only good and only true peaceful. Jory, this has been an amazing session. Thank you so much for sharing the stories of your grandma and how she was physically abused and how that passed down to your mom who was physically abused and then how that passed on to you. But you were able to break the cycle by taking a break from men and a break of external sources, even your favorite thing of reading. You said, you know what? Let me not go out to YouTube, to Instagram, to the books, whatever you guys are choosing to do. Everyone has an expert they listen to. Well, what does my therapist say? What does my preacher say? That's all great. I'm a big God lover. But before you go out to your rabbi, your preacher, your church, your mosque, whatever you do, go to yourself first and sit alone with yourself and alone with God. You don't need to hear so much noise before you first go to yourself and ask yourself, what would make me feel comfortable? What would make me feel loved? What is the vision of my life that I want? And develop a personal relationship with yourself and with God. And then once that's so clear and solidified, pick 1 or 2 people that you super trust and that whose lives you emulate. And then you could go ask them for advice. But first, you got to go find yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, like Jory said, you can never truly love yourself. And if you don't really love yourself, you can never truly attract someone who is going to love you. And how can you even explain to them how to love you if you don't even know what you want
Yep.
and need? So, Jory, thank you so much for sharing your powerful stories and your journey with us. It's such a pleasure to have you on. If anybody would like to find you, how could they find you, Jory?
I am on all social media platforms under Jori O'Neale, Jorioneale. Don't leave out the E at the end. I have a YouTube channel that shares some of the work that I've been doing in terms of empowering other women. I have a podcast called 30 Minutes of Power, in addition to the marriage podcast. All of these things literally are under their titles. I'm not very creative. So we just keep call it what it is. So 30 Minutes of Power is literally the number 30 minutes of power. You can find that on Instagram and YouTube. And if you are looking to share your story and to get it out of your head and onto a page, I am the proud author of Talk Your Book, Say It, Shape It, and Share It. And this can be found on all places that you buy books. But if you want this book specifically for me to sign it and give it to you with a nice little note, you can find that on my website, jorioneale.com/bookstore. Super excited to have been here. Thank you so much, Haya, for sharing your audience and sharing your time with me, friend.
Thank you, Jory. If you guys need your story to be published, Jory is a gifted, gifted writer who can truly take your stories, feel the essence, and intuitively and very skillfully produce it for the world to hear. So, if you have any interest in that, please find Jory on the socials. They will also be posted in the podcast description down below. And, guys, I'm Haya Garcia, relationship expert, also known as the epic love expert, because I want to teach you how to go from to epic in love. You can find me on my Instagram at epic love expert. Thank you guys so much for being here. Remember, you are all 100%, 100% effed up, but you are all 100% lovable. I will see you guys on the next episode. Drop comments below or share this with your friends who need some inspiration on how to love themselves and attract the right relationship. Take care, and I'll see you next episode.